I know many of you like to control the direction of half square triangles or flippy corners when you have directional prints. How to figure out the direction for marking and then sewing, and then when you flip, you have your fabric going the way you want it. In the quilt that I'm working on, these flippy cornered squares get turned different ways. So going block by block, I figure out where my directional fabric to be turned. And on this particular one that I've not sewn yet, I want the horses to be going up, and I want this print to run this direction. So here's how I'd go about and determine which way to, how to mark this, layer it on the square. If you go ahead and fold, I just happened to fold it the right way. If you go ahead and fold it wrong sides together to get your triangle, that would mimic how your fabric would get cut and turned. So in this case, I happened to pick the exact way that I needed it. So I'm going to just lay that on the corner. And so I don't lose my place, I will now go ahead and with my fabric marking pencil and a ruler, draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. I know I want to keep that one there. So this one, I want the design to be running this way. So again, I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half, wrong sides together, and audition it. And geez, so much for my example. Well, anyway, it is running the way I want it to. But let's just, for example, say I tried it this way and put it in. Now this motif is running up and down, so that wouldn't be right. So I would go ahead and just start flipping these wrong sides together and see what works. Now, because you're going to trim this off and you have, you know, one side that's going to be flipped, I would go ahead, once you find it the way that works, I would go ahead and flip it. And again, you're auditioning which part is going to be kept. So when I flip it open, that's what I'm going to see. And I like that one a little better than the other one because it shows a little bit more of the design. So now I just open that up so the right sides are together. And I will draw my line in the direction that it needs to be oriented from corner to corner. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew it, and then we'll trim it. Okay, I'm back, and I have sewn these two down, sewing on the diagonal line, but what I actually do is about the needle's width, the width of a needle. Instead of sewing directly on that drawn line, I just use the needle as my guide and sew on the corner side of that. The reason I do that is thread thickness. When I cut this and then press this over, there's that little bit of a roll that you get just with the way the fabric takes up in a roll. And that slight, I mean, it's just the width of the needle is enough to keep that corner really square. So to trim this up, use a ruler, and on the sewn line, go ahead and measure off that 1/4 inch. Trim that off. Now this you can either toss, or in my case, I'm saving these together just as I've trimmed them off, and then I'm sewing 1/4 inch seam on this, and I'm able to get a 2.5 inch square out of that. So go ahead and trim both sides because they're diagonally opposite here. It's no problem. And you will go ahead and take this to the ironing board and press this corner out on both sides. And now you have your flippy cornered square with your pieces running the way that you wanted them to run.